Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Handberg, and this is Becoming a Medical Examiner. I'm a forensic pathologist and medical examiner, and on this podcast, I interview other medical examiners. And today, number one, if you can tell, I'm wearing the same outfit as I was in the previous episode because it's the same day. I'm at the National Association of Medical Examiners Conference, and so I'm trying to get as much time as I can with the other medical examiners around the country. And I'm very lucky to have Dr. Ponni Arunkumar and Dr. Michelle Jorden. So if I can ask, Ponni, can you introduce yourself and say where you're from?
I'm Dr. Ponni Arunkumar. I work at the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office as their Chief Medical Examiner. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office is located in Chicago. We cover the whole county of Cook.
Perfect. Michelle?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Michelle Jorden, and I am a practicing forensic pathologist and neuropathologist in Northern California, specifically in San Jose, California, and I am the Chief Medical Examiner.
That's fantastic. And I was just informed you are also the incoming president and vice president of the National Association of Medical Examiners. Is that correct?
The nominated.
Fantastic.
Incoming, yes.
Okay, well, that's very cool. I forgot that you're a neuropathologist. That's excellent. This is the only other neuropathologist I've spoken to is Sam Champion from Chicago.
Oh, okay.
So, well, the way I like to start these podcasts, this is the first one I'm ever doing with two people to be interviewed. And so I'm going to do my best to put it together. So we'll see how we can do it. But I would like to know, one of the things that I run into is that people often don't know, when I say I'm a medical examiner, they don't know what I mean. They don't know what I do. They certainly don't know I'm a physician. And so if you were going to explain what you do to a layperson, how do you do it? What do you actually say? Bonnie?
If I were to talk to my mother, which I had to when I was entering forensic pathology, I would say I'm a doctor who specializes in pathology and then forensic pathology, doing autopsies and figuring out what happened to the person, specifically finding out how they died and the circumstances that surround that death.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes, so I've had I've run into some instances where I really I need to explain what I do really in layman's terms. So the way I describe what I do is I let people understand and know that I'm a medical doctor, but I'm very different than a typical medical doctor because my patients are deceased. And I'm in a profession, I'm a medical doctor that has a very unique place in medicine because I am the only type of doctor that can certify unnatural causes of death and natural causes of death in which someone is not under the active care of a medical doctor. And as Dr. Arunkumar stated, our primary duty is to investigate these deaths, to have that voice for the individual, and to figure out why they died and how they died.
Excellent. It's very similar to how I explain things. I typically say to be my sort of fast version is I say I'm a physician,
Yes.
and I specialize in doing autopsies and investigations for sudden, suspicious, or unexpected deaths in known persons or any deaths in unknown persons.
Yes.
That's what I do, but I like hearing the other versions of it. And you said we're a very specialized type of doctor. And that brings me to my first question is how in the world did you find out about this profession? When you were in high school, did you already know, I want to be a forensic pathologist?
I did.
You did?
I did.
How?
So when I was in high school, I was really interested in science and really interested in biology. And during that time in the 1980s, our high school in our city was, they had not a contest, but like an essay. It was like an essay contest of what it was is if you were interested in science, they wanted you to write a one-page essay as to why you were interested in science. And if that was the best essay, if you will, you were then selected as a student to rotate at a local hospital and rotate through all the various specialties of medicine. And at that time, it was a way to recruit more people, particularly women, in the field of medicine. Now, at the time, I didn't know I was interested in medicine. I just knew I was interested in science. And I thought, what a great opportunity to be able to see different aspects of science, including medicine. So I spent an entire summer rotating through all these various subspecialties and was lucky enough to rotate through the Department of Pathology. And I thought it was just the neatest thing because now I learned at a very young age that even though I go to my medical doctor, there's another doctor behind the scenes
Sure.
that can make a medical diagnosis, even though all this time I thought, oh, it's always my doctor. But it really opened my eyes to a different way of looking at medicine. And I just thought it was so intriguing and really fell in love with pathology.
That's awesome. That's really cool that you had that kind of opportunity. I don't know that that exists for a lot of people, but I think that if it does exist and you happen to get into that, that's probably, it sounds like it would be very gratifying. And I really wish there was something like that I don't even know if I would have participated. I don't know. I was a late bloomer for academic things. And you mentioned there being a behind the scenes doctor. And I would say as far as at least the beginning of medical school, I still truly believed that most doctors operated like Dr. House from the show House, where he would see his patients with his little team, and then they would personally draw blood and then go back to the lab and do it themselves and look in the microscope. And it turns out that's not true, at least not that I've ever seen, but I can certainly understand where you're coming from not knowing that. Ponni, how did you find out about this?
So I was in high school knowing that I wanted to do something in the science field. I would shadow my aunt, who was a general practitioner, and I liked what she was doing. So I kind of had an idea that I wanted to do medicine. So I studied and got into medical school. Finishing medical school, I got married to my husband, who was in emergency medicine at the time in England. And, we wanted to have a family, so I kind of thought I should get into a field that is not so busy. So I had two options that I liked. I liked radiology and I liked pathology. I liked the histology course in medical school, so that, that was why I was thinking of pathology. Finally, I decided, yes, I want to do pathology, not radiology, because it's too much in a little room and things like that. So I decided to do pathology. While applying for my pathology residencies, I had an inclination to do microbiology. I don't know why, but I like microbiology. Even during my pathology residency, I liked microbiology. The microbiologist who was in charge of the lab was very good, so I wanted to do that. And then as part of your pathology residency, at least in Illinois, you have to do a 1-month rotation at the local medical examiner's office, which was the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. So I rotated there for a month, and a few days of being in that rotation, I knew I liked forensic pathology. So I was one who did not know much about forensic pathology. We were not exposed to a lot of it. I did my medical school in India, so I wasn't aware too much about it. And then finally decided I like this. I like that you're doing autopsies, you're involving all the fields of medicine to figure out what happened to the person. You're talking to law enforcement, you're talking to a lot of people to figure out what the circumstances are. So it was a little bit of that detective work, I think, that I liked. You're not behind a microscope all the time, which was what I was doing a lot of in surgical pathology. So I decided to apply for a forensic pathology fellowship at the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. My husband was already practicing medicine in a suburb in Chicago, so I wanted to be nearby.
Which one, just out of curiosity?
In Naperville.
Naperville, sure. I lived in Schaumburg and in Palatine, so I'm familiar with Chicago.
Yeah.
And as a side note, I mentioned to you, and I just think it's so fun. So I did emergency medicine first. I did that before I switched into pathology. And when I decided I was switching into pathology, I was doing it specifically to go into forensics. I thought but I had no real exposure to it. And I was very lucky that someone at University of Chicago had been willing to let me do an observership, and that was fantastic. But I knew I wanted to go into forensics, or I thought I did. And so I emailed Cook County Medical Examiner Office and asked, could I maybe come shadow? I'm already a doctor. I did emergency medicine residency. Please, I will be professional, I promise. And they sent me a giant pile of paperwork and said maybe. And so I did all the paperwork, and eventually the time came because you were cutting that day. And I went to Cook County Medical Examiner's office, and I had no idea what to expect. So I showed up with my big folder, and then they sent me in the back, and I said, Dr. Arunkumar, I'm Eric Handberg. And he went, oh, great, come here. And then your tech handed you a human brain, and then you tap, looked at it, and then put it in the garbage can. And your fellow nearby had said, I can handle this one. And there was a person who had been mummified. And he opened the case, and I thought, oh, man, I don't know if I can do this. This is a very aggressive intro. But I spent the next couple hours talking to all the medical examiners there, and everybody I found that I had a lot in common with the people there, because all of us, we do the same thing that you do. It's kind of a combination of emergency medicine and a little bit of pediatrics.
Yes.
Because we have, in emergency medicine, we talk about the undifferentiated patient. It's someone who the only thing you know about them is a single symptom. My abdomen hurts. Or in our case, they're dead. And then we get to figure out why. And I compare it to pediatrics because in pediatrics, a lot of pediatricians, they don't really talk to their patients. They talk to the families. And so I really felt like I resonated with people in the way that people were thinking. And so my one day at Cook County, that really solidified my interest. So I kept going. So thank you for that. You didn't know, but you were the first person I ever saw perform an autopsy.
So happy to hear that.
That's great.
Can I add to that,
Yeah,
if I may,
please.
just because we're talking about Cook County? So for me, to solidify my interest in forensic pathology, I went to medical school in Chicago.
Oh, where at?
At Northwestern.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I originally grew up in the Chicagoland area. So when I was in medical school, when I was a fourth-year medical student, I had contacted the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office and asked, can I volunteer my time on the weekends just so I can shadow? I won't touch anything. I won't get in anyone's way, but I just wanted to shadow to see if this is really something I want to do. And that was very satisfying and solidifying for me.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Cook County has a reputation. So I hope you don't mind me saying it's positive. Yeah. They have a reputation for being really outstanding at at when you contact them. You guys have always been so helpful to learners, and you're exceedingly helpful to international graduates, and so I really appreciate you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you know that we work together?
That you worked together?
Yeah, at Cook County.
I absolutely did not.
Yeah. So Dr. Arunkumar did her fellowship a year, or was it 2 years?
1 year.
1 year before I did mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we had an opportunity to work together, and it was a very lasting experience. It's an excellent training ground.
I'm familiar, and I hear a lot about how good of a training ground it was from my current chief, Darinka Malusnik.
Yes.
And she says hi, by the way.
Thank you. Yes.
But yeah, she's been phenomenal, and she talks very, very highly of the experience at Cook County. So Cook County aside, so I did have, you mentioned earlier that, and I'm breaking from my usual pattern here a little bit because I got a specific request to talk about this. You mentioned earlier that you did this essay writing that was aimed at bringing more women into science.
Yes.
And while I was in residency, it took some doing, but I was able to also get myself an external rotation, which is it's a lot of work. I don't know if I recommend it, but I was worth it for me. And I was able to get myself to rotate at the New York office of the chief medical examiner. And while I was there, that was while Barbara Sampson was chief. And the way they do their sort of morning rounds is everybody sits at this gigantic table. So you have medical examiners, and it's all the staff for the day, but you also have the MDIs, and I think there's one or two techs, and there's actually some of the police investigators will occasionally come. And the chief, she ran the meeting, and she pointed out that on one of the mornings I was there, that aside from me, everyone in the room was a woman. And she said that just made her feel so proud that the field has come that far. And now I'm relatively new in the field. And so for me, I've never noticed a change in the demographic. I will say that there does seem to be a female predominance in interest in the field. That's something I noticed from my outreach. I've noticed that a lot of young women are asking about how to get into the field. And I don't know if that's something that, have you guys noticed a change in the demographic?
Yes.
So that sounds like a resounding yes. Michelle,
Yes.
you want to tell me about that?
Yes. I would say really probably within the last 10 years, I've really noticed a lot of women in the field. For example, take my office. We have around 38 full-time employees. The vast majority are women.
Interesting.
You have a chief medical examiner who's a woman, a chief investigator who's a woman, an administrative service manager, a woman. I've really seen that transition. We still have men in the office, but by far there's more women. But I think it's a very attractive field for women, particularly for lifestyle. Because even though we take call, our call a lot of times doesn't require us to leave our families to come into the office, but more of phone time, telephone time. And I do think it is a pretty balanced profession in the sense that you go to work, it's typically an 8-hour day. It's a very satisfying job because you're talking to the family, you're bringing that closure. And it enables you to have a family life. And I do think that's attracting more women into the field.
Interesting. Ponni?
Similar experience. We did have a lot more male pathologists and male technicians in our office 10, 20 years ago. And then slowly we've had more female pathologists, female technicians in the field that we outnumbered the male technicians and pathologists. We have now had to switch our locker rooms. So the male locker room is the female locker room now. That's how I think the field is currently, which is nice to see that, women want to get into this field and they're doing great.
Yes, they are. And I want to echo Ponni's, the locker room. We had to do the same thing.
That's so fun. Like I said, this is the field that I grew up in. This is the demographics I'm used to. And I don't know, I have no idea what it was like before, but certainly it's a wonderful field now. I will admit, I also really like the lifestyle, despite not being a woman. I stand by, I think it's an excellent field to be in. And I did want to ask, I just spaced what I wanted to ask. See, what are you going to do? Sometimes that happens. I wanted to talk about, that's what it was. So I can certainly understand lifestyle being a draw. It's a big draw for me. One of the things that I've noticed is that I have a lot of young women who are quite young, 15, 16, 17, who are seemingly very, very interested in, they almost never, probably never, ask me about the lifestyle. They seem very intrigued by the work itself. And I don't know why that is. Do you find that that's the case? If you have interactions with young women that contact you, are they typically asking about lifestyle, or are they more into the casework? What's been your experience?
I think they're more intrigued by what we are doing, how we're doing it, not necessarily the lifestyle, because they're young. They're just more drawn into the field, probably by watching all the television shows and movies and things and trying to see, is it what it is, right? And then they ask about, how you figure things out. And we explain it's not like at the time of the autopsy. Sometimes it, needs more testing, more investigation done, and how we're figuring out how a case gets solved. So they are intrigued by it. I think that is good,
Yeah, of course. I'm also intrigued by it, and I agree with you. I think that movies, TV, those type of things certainly have a a part in that. Michelle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, my experience has been very similar. So for the younger women who are interested, it's mostly the casework and how we go about doing our job. Whereas I noticed with residents, male and female, there's a lot more questions about lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it really provides an opportunity at that level for us to go more in depth about the lifestyle and what that's like. Mm-hmm. That has been my experience.
I mean, that it makes sense. That's also, I'm sure that has something to do with aging into realizing,
Yes.
like, I don't know if I want to work until midnight every night. That's.
And I think the number of years it takes
Yeah.
to get to being a forensic pathologist.
Yeah.
So I think as you're undergoing that training, there are a lot more lifestyle questions.
So you mentioned movies and TV being part of the draw. Now we're way off my normal sort of set of questions, but I am curious. So I have a very positive view of movies and TV in the way that it supports the field. Now, I agree that it's typically very fantastical. It's not accurate to what we do. But I will say one of my first, it's not fair to say role model, but sort of a window into the concept of this job existing is someone who never even claimed to be a forensic pathologist, but it's Dana Scully from the X-Files. And I do know that there was such a big interest in that character and what she brought to the field, the sort of spotlight she put on the field, that there is a researched effect called the Scully effect, because it resulted in a big increase in recruitment. And I don't know, it's my understanding, also an increase in female recruitment into the hard sciences. How do you feel about media portrayal of our field?
So I think it brings light to our profession, to how we're doing things. And when people come to me, I say it's not as glamorous as it is on TV. Otherwise, I think they're showing similar techniques that we are doing. It's not as fast as they show it, how a case gets resolved on TV. But it helps that they're bringing light to the profession, because not many people would otherwise think of forensic pathology, like myself, right? I just happened to do a rotation. If I was, instead of pathology, doing some other residency training program, I would never know about it.
Right. Michelle?
I think the shows has overall been a very, very positive effect on the field. Because the one thing I do like about the shows is that it really portrays forensic science more as a broader field, which I think allows people to not just go to you don't have to be a forensic pathologist. There are other avenues you can pursue, like forensic anthropology. Or if you don't want to become a doctor, there's still so many opportunities in forensics as a broader field, like the crime lab, DNA analysis, like I said, anthropology, but there's just so many avenues. So I think that has had a very positive effect. I do agree with Dr. Arunkumar, Ponni, that you really need to educate people that even though overall it portrays the field fairly accurately, it's not always as accurate when it comes to DNA.
Sure.
When it comes to some of the evidence that we take at autopsy.
I think that's fair. And I actually really like the way that you phrase that, because I have a personal pet peeve with our field, and I think medical field in general. We love to debunk TV shows, and that bothers me a little bit, because I think that what we're effectively doing is we're having someone come to us and say, I saw what you do on television. It is amazing, and I want to do what you do. And our first thought is to go, it's not as cool as you think. I don't like that. I really like the way you said it. It says some of the things, broadly, that is what we do. Now, some things take a little bit longer because we don't have, a 3D holographic recreation that we can project. That's fine. Maybe one day that would be great if we get that kind of funding. But I really like the idea of supporting the interest that it builds.
Yes.
I also think that it would be unreasonable. I think that's us belittling the people who watch the shows that they would believe wholeheartedly that that's exactly what our office is going to look like.
True.
To be honest, a lot of times I'm happy our offices are a lot prettier with more light and we operate in the daytime. I feel like that's really nice. But okay, so enough aside about television. So I like to ask about what the experience of residency was like and when you first took ownership of doing an autopsy. So your first actual autopsy you performed, it sounds, aside from what would be called cadaver lab or anatomy lab in medical school, the first real autopsy that you performed, was that in residency for both of you?
Yes.
Do you remember it? Do you remember what it was like to do the first one?
Yes.
Tell me what it was like.
Yes. So my first case as a resident, it was my first year in residency, was on an adolescent who had passed away. And if I recall correctly, around 14, 15 years of age, in which the parents had consented to a hospital autopsy. But it was meeting with my attending, and I had a very good attending at the time who sat me down and said, we're going to do an autopsy. We're doing the autopsy so we can explain to not just the clinicians who took care of him, but also the family as to what happened. Why did he die? So I really like that introduction instead of just taking somebody into an autopsy suite and just be very robotic, like this is what we're going to do, to have that conversation beforehand and kind of go through what some of the emotions might be that you might feel when you're doing that autopsy. I think that's really important. I think it should be very integral in our training of our trainees today.
So you had an attending that sort of framed what was about to happen and why.
Yes.
That's really nice.
And I thought that was really helpful and just walked me through the steps because that was really my first hospital autopsy. And it's nothing like a cadaver lab in medical school.
No, yeah, it's very different.
It's so much different. But just walking me through the steps of we're going to do an external exam, then we are going to open the body, we're going to do an internal exam, and, just sitting me down and saying, well, for some people, opening the head can be especially hard. So that was really nice to be introduced to the autopsy that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Having an for anyone who doesn't know, I assume people do, but just in case, an attending is a supervising physician. I think it dates back to, you do residency because you're a resident, and you're called a resident because you truly lived at the hospital, where some doctors would attend the hospital as needed. And so an attending is sort of the head supervising doctor for the room. At the moment, we're all attendings. You guys are chiefs, which is very, very much not what I am, but we're all attendings, and you had someone who was willing to take the time to actually frame the purpose of what you're doing.
Yes.
I love that. I wish we did more of that. To me, that is really important for doctoring, and I also think it's really grounding for pathologists who often are very separated from the patient. You don't see them day to day. You don't see them before they die. You know, nowadays in anatomic pathology, you might see their photograph in the electronic medical record and their name, but that's basically all the interaction up until an autopsy. And so I think having that grounding and the reaffirmation of your role as a doctor is really nice.
Yes, I would agree. And it's actually a practice that I use today.
Excellent.
So when I have students that are rotating through our office to observe an autopsy, but they haven't before, we really do our due diligence to take that time to spend some time with them so they know what the expectations are.
Very cool. Ponni?
My experience was a little bit different.
Okay.
So we had an autopsy pathologist who was doing autopsies for a long time, and he was really good at trying to figure out what happened to the person. We did have the medical history and things, but what I remember of my first autopsy was he was my supervisor, and we started off doing the autopsy and weighing the organs and things. The one thing I remember clearly was his glove, and this was many years ago, right? So people were not paying that much attention. His glove tore, and he kept doing the autopsy, and that was all I could think of was that.
That is a classic story of autopsy. Things are very different now. That type of thing we would definitely stop and get. Typically, I wear 2 pairs of gloves and a lot other PPE. So I wear different color gloves. So when the outer one bursts, I can see the inner color.
Yes.
Through. So it's a fun little trick I picked up from someone at some point. So because now that I've learned that you both did fellowship at Cook County, now I feel like I have to ask more about fellowship. So how do I want to do this? Because I know Cook County is such a storied institution, and you've created, you do roughly 4 fellows a year most years, right?
3 fellows.
3 fellows. So, over many years, you've produced a large proportion of the people who are practicing all around the country and probably the world. And so I imagine that there's a lot of, in a positive light, hand-me-down wisdom that people have gotten from, the people who came before in Cook County. Are there any particular pearls? Let's start with you, because I think it's unfair to ask you right now. Are there any particular pearls that you remember from your time at Cook County that you still use?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
feel like there's so much I use from Cook County. I think one of the pearls, excuse me, that I use every time I'm in the autopsy suite, and a message I really try to teach our trainees, is that you only have one shot at the body. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. You have that moment in time where you have that doctor-patient relationship, and you want to be as thorough as you possibly can. So that is probably one of the most important pearls I've learned. Being thorough and just making sure you're not rushing through a case, because as soon as you do that, you're going to miss things. And making sure you're not focusing in on what it looks like, but be more open-minded. That even though something appears to be presenting to you a certain way, it might not be that way.
So, like avoiding anchoring is what you're saying, or help me understand what you mean.
Yeah. So if you have a gunshot wound,
Sure.
don't automatically assume it's a suicide, because
of course.
law enforcement at the scene is saying it's a suicide, or they think it's a suicide. Keep a more open mind. Don't be so pigeonholed as to what people are telling you before you're even looking at the case.
Absolutely. That's
generate that.
advice.
Generate that differential diagnosis.
I love that. That's so one of the things. This goes back to my ER training. That was one of my favorite parts of becoming a doctor, was generating a differential diagnosis.
Yes. Yeah.
And yes, to some extent, sometimes there's not much of a differential. If you have a gunshot wound, it's probably the gunshot wound when you're trying to figure out why they died. But you can still have a differential about other things. And I like to, with my students, with my residents, I like to say, let's imagine they didn't have the gunshot wound. Let's make this into what can you think of? Mm-hmm. And for the cases, a lot of cases, while we do all see gunshot wounds, we do all see trauma, that is not all of the cases we see. We actually see a really enormous amount of natural deaths as well.
Yes.
And I try to remind the residents, all that time you spent becoming a doctor, don't let it go. You need to remember all that stuff. And I like to do the differential diagnosis.
Yes.
I don't know if they like it with me, but I do. I think it's fun.
So I do that all the time.
Do you? Okay, good. Then I feel better.
I do.
So what about you? So I'm going to put you on the spot for your own institution now. Sure. What do you remember from your training that you still try to bring for everyone that's there? Is there anything in particular? Obviously you do a lot, but is there anything in particular that you feel really exemplified the training you got at Cook County that you really feel is important for the trainees that you have now?
So the one thing that I remember, along with what Dr. Jorden says, is, when we were going through fellowship, our supervisor was Dr. Donahue, who was the chief medical examiner at the time. And he always instilled, if you're thinking about doing an additional step, whether you want to just either doing an external exam and you think, do you think you need to do an autopsy, like a full exam? Go ahead, just do it. That way you can sleep well at night. You're not questioning yourself. And I follow that even today, even though I can make decisions and follow the decision process that I do anytime I'm thinking, should I do something? Not just in forensic pathology, but just in general. I just go ahead and do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And actually, I really believe the first person who said something like that to me was Sam Champion, my co-fellow, who is now at Cook County. So she just brought it with her. She already came pre-prepared, but she said that she told me that once you think of it, you just have to do it, because then you'll only regret not doing it later.
Absolutely.
And so I do that often, and I will admit, once or twice in recent memory, I have thought, I probably don't need to. And boy, do I regret doing that, because then it's all I can think about is what did I not find? I don't think I missed anything, but gosh, what if I missed something? Now, luckily, those were not cases that I'm medical legally worried about, but you can't help but wonder, I wonder if they did have that little genetic anomaly. I wonder if there was an aneurysm. I wonder, so those little things, they eat away. So just do the extra effort. Honestly, it doesn't take that long to put in the extra effort.
That's right. That's right.
So now I'm going to ask a little bit more philosophical question. So we, more than most, see some pretty dark parts of life. We see not just deaths, but we see deaths that are sudden, unexpected, violent. And these are things, I think that's part of the reason people are very fascinated with what we do, because it's the fringes of life and they want to have a guided, safe tour of what these extremes are. And we live there quite a bit. Has that affected the way that you personally live your life?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes. I think with some of the traumatic deaths we see, for instance, as an example, motor vehicle accidents, it's made me more cognizant of driving careful, being more careful. I would say having children, it makes you more protective because, as you stated, we do see a darker side of life. So that has changed me. Has it changed me in a bad way? I don't think so. I think being more careful when you're driving. I'm very cognizant of that now. Is it worth speeding? No, it's not. Is speeding going to get you there a lot quicker? Not necessarily. Is it worth taking that risk? For me, no, because this is the profession I'm in, right? For my child, I have one daughter. I would say that when she was younger, I am definitely more protective.
How so?
I would say more protective in the sense of making sure that I taught her very early on of when you're walking, make sure that before you cross the street, you're walking both ways.
Yeah.
When she was on a scooter or on a bicycle, making sure she wore her helmet. I think as a forensic pathologist, because we do see these fatalities, it just reinforces the safety and preventive measures that are out there and to really underscore that.
What about you? Do you feel like you've changed anything about the way you live your life because of what you've seen?
For me, what it has done is I appreciate the simple things in life. I'm healthy. My immediate family is healthy and well. I think I appreciate that more, the simple things. It doesn't matter whether you have this huge house or multiple cars. That is not, that is not something I would always want anyway. But, I don't think of it as important. I just appreciate that, we're alive and and your immediate family is healthy. And that's what's important. So it keeps me going in a way. And I tell people who are coming into our field, if you think of it that way, it helps you deal with your caseload and life as such.
Definitely.
I wanted to add to that. I completely agree. It makes you appreciate life and how fragile life is, especially when, as a forensic pathologist, you autopsy very young individuals in which their deaths could have been prevented.
Yeah.
So it really makes me appreciate that life is very fragile. And you think, I know when I was younger, I always thought, well, you think you're invincible, and you're not.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think that the longer I go doing these cases, I hope that I don't end up one of these violent deaths. I think that we mostly all hope that.
Yes.
I think that what really gets to me is that sometimes the bottom line is some people have shit luck. And sometimes, you can be leaving a gym and a drunk driver will crash into you. And I think to some extent, it's made me appreciate the small things. And I would say in some ways, I'm more cautious.
Yes.
But I also think in a lot of ways, it's given me the drive to not wait to do things.
Yes.
Because I don't feel like I can guarantee that I'm going to be 50. Now, boy, I hope I will, right? But seeing all these things, I just go, why not try to follow my dreams? Why not try to do the things I want to do? Why not start a podcast, right? And so it makes me feel good in the sense that it's sort of life affirming to know that I can't know for sure when it's going to end. So I like to try to use it while I can. At least that's how I think of it. Okay, sorry, that's heavy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
No, it's. I think it's spot on.
So I do want to ask, because I'm so lucky to have such a unique, because you're both chiefs, you both trained in Chicago. Now you are at the point in your careers where you've trained quite a few people, medical students, residents, probably quite a few fellows. What do you feel like you personally take the most pride in teaching? If somebody's looking back and they think about a pearl you gave them, what is the thing you hope that they take from you?
For me, it is irrespective of whatever is going on, just be calm. I think that's the point I want to give my students, because there's always a lot going on in our office. But whatever you do, just be calm.
I think you really exemplify that quite a lot.
Yeah.
Michelle?
In addition, I always want people to appreciate how lucky we are to be that individual's last doctor in attendance. I think that's so important, and really emphasizing that although the deceased is our patient, there's a family and friends that loved that person. And just treating the examination with the utmost respect and making sure that throughout the examination we're so respectful of that individual. That's really important to me.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And I agree. It's very, very important.
Yes.
And because we brought it up earlier, do you have any specific thoughts that you would want to directly address to the young women who are interested in going into the field? Any specific advice, anything like that?
I would say whatever you think you want to do, you could do it. I never thought I'd be a physician in the first place. I got to be a doctor. And then when I became a forensic pathologist, I never thought I would become the chief of an office. And I was able to do that. And I did medical school in South India, and I'm able to do it. So my advice would be for the young women, whatever you dream of, whatever you think of, you can do it.
I love that.
Yes, me too. I think if this is something you want to do, pursue it. There might be ups, there might be downs, but that's okay. It's part of life's road. But I think it's such a rewarding field, particularly for women. And I think right now, with so many women in the profession, there are so many role models, there's so many mentors. I mean, there's so many people in the field that want to embrace young women who are interested. So I think definitely go for it, for sure.
Love the optimistic view. That makes me feel so happy. I do want to end with a happy note. I like to, just because we do talk about some kind of difficult stuff, although it's been relatively lighthearted the whole time, except for I got overly philosophical maybe. I do want to ask, can you tell me, doesn't have to be about forensic pathology or medicine at all, but tell me something about your time in Chicago that is a fun memory. What was something that you loved? What do you love about being there?
Oh my goodness. There's so much. So first and foremost, Chicago is a fantastic city. There's so much ethnicity there. Then there's so much history in Chicago. Mm-hmm. I would say that is a really top memory of just taking advantage of being in Chicago, just walking around. Look at the beautiful buildings, look at the history of the buildings, learn about the history of Chicago, and realize that there are some buildings still in existence, even from the Great Chicago Fire.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, I think the people are just completely fantastic because there's such a diversity of people. You meet so many different people, so many different personalities, and the people are so kind. They're so friendly. And I can't say this enough, but the food.
Yeah.
That's what I was
The food is incredible. So one of my favorite places to go is the Billy Goat Saloon.
Of course. Sure.
Or the tavern, I'm sorry, Billy Goat Tavern, and the Chicago hot dog.
Okay.
You cannot visit Chicago without the Chicago hot dog.
I mean, I love it. I love celery salt, and every time I have it in anything, that's my first. This reminds me of Chicago.
Yes.
By the way, my emergency medicine was at Northwestern, so I used to walk on the gosh, what was the name of that?
Lakeshore Drive.
Lakeshore, yeah. I used to walk on Lakeshore and see those old buildings, and they're just some of those old buildings over by Wrigley. It's stunning.
Exactly.
And for anyone, just by chance, if you happen to be in Chicago, even if you're a lifetime Chicagoan, take the architecture boat tour.
Yes.
My God, that's the coolest thing. I love that. I still think that was one of my favorite things.
Yes.
Connie.
For me, yes, going on walks along Lakeshore Drive. We have a condo along Lakeshore Drive, so it's one of my favorite things to do, and the food is incredible.
Well, she gave a shout out to Billy Goat. Where are you going to give a shout out to? What's your food?
I love the deep dish pizza.
Oh, do you?
Lou Malnati's.
Lou Malnati's, okay.
Yes.
So you're a Lou Malnati's person.
Yes.
I loved, now this is something I don't know if it's ever come up on the podcast, but I happen to be a pizza person broadly. I used to give pizza tours and teach pizza history, and I used to fly from Chicago to New York, and I used to do pizza tastings and things, and I taught that in Portland. Very bizarre side note, but for me, Lou Malnati's is the best pizza. But just in a strange, I think every part of Lou Malnati's I prefer, but for whatever reason, I always got Giordano's.
Oh.
I don't know why, but I think they're both great. I don't like Uno's. Sorry. That's all there is to it. So I'll end us there, but thank you both so much for doing the podcast. This was fantastic. I will ask if you want people to reach out to you, you can just give me your emails or wherever you want them to reach out. It's absolutely not obligated. Otherwise, I'll tell you guys, thank you so much for listening or watching, I guess, now that we have video. Thank you for telling me what it was like becoming a medical examiner and all the other things we talked about. And if you are interested in becoming a medical examiner, I highly recommend you go to the NAME's website. That's thename.org. That's the National Association of Medical Examiners. There's a lot of information about becoming a medical examiner. There's a lot of educational information and just ways to learn more about the field. There's practice questions if you want to try that. It's really a good place to go. So that's thename.org. You can also go, if you want to have more interaction with forensic pathologists and learn more about the field, you can go to reddit.com/r/forensic pathology. There's lots of forensic professionals there. There are forensic pathologists there that can answer questions. There's a big list about how to get into the field if you're interested. And like Michelle said, there's a very big group of people who are forensic professionals that are not forensic pathologists. So if you're interested in the field and you don't necessarily want to do medical school, you can also go check out reddit.com/r/forensics, and you can see the wide variety of people that are in forensics that are not forensic pathologists. So until next time, thanks very much. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.